everyone. Right, first part of the story was, this map here, it looks like a doodle, but it is a map. It's an old map of the parish of Trinent, which was commissioned by George Seaton, who was the Earl of Winton at the time, and it was done by a guy called John Adair in 1685 to 1687. And although we done a lot of research looking for images of the palace, there were very few and far between. One of them in 1633 by a Dutch artist, Alexander Kierix, I think his name is. He was commissioned to do a painting by Charles I, but he painted it when he was sitting on Riggin Hill, which is like, you can't get much detail, it's very far away. So this one here is about one of the best sort of images that we can get to show us what the palace was like. So how it started, myself and Gordon, we were metal detecting in the fields just round about Seaton Castle. And Gordon says that he'd been metal detecting for 20 years. I've just been doing it for about 3-4 years, and he says that he always wanted to get into maybe the orchard or the grounds of Seaton Castle to do a wee bit detecting. So that night I went home, and as one does nowadays, I just googled who owned Seaton Castle, and the name came up by Mr. Stephen Leach, and he has offices in Queen Street in Edinburgh, so there was an email address there, so I actually emailed them, gave a wee explanation about the metal detecting, because we'd already done a wee bit metal detecting at Cokenzie House and Gardens, and what we did, Dean had got an old jeweller's case, viewing case, so we put the detecting finds in there so any members of the public going through can sort of see what we found in the gardens. And I explained this in the email to Steve, but also says that myself, I'm a plumber, and Gordon's a joiner, and normally anybody that gives us a wee bit permission will do small jobs for them, like a tap washer, no plumbing the house, or re-roofing a barn. So Steve actually emailed back, which was quite a surprise, and he asked to meet for a coffee. So myself, Gordon and Dean met him at Cokenzie House. We had a coffee, we showed him the finds, and he'd never heard of Cokenzie House, but he was very interested. But then he says that he's actually looking for a caretaker. But he did say that in the next 2 weeks he's getting his front lawns lifted, topsoiled and re-turfed, because the lawns were very undulating and not very level. So he says you've got 2 weeks if you want to do any metal detector on the lawns. So myself, Gordon, Christine, Dean, Tinny, we went up. But what we did is, we thought we could find something quite interesting on the lawns, so what we did was we made grids on the lawns, so if we did find any interesting, we could pinpoint out where it was, and we did have GPS as well, like, but we still did it the old-fashioned way. But in the meantime, we were doing that, Gordon applied for, and obviously got the job as the caretaker of the castle. But as we were metal detecting, even just like 50 mil under the ground, we were coming across big stones, and we thought, these are walls. We didn't know exactly where the palace was in relation to the existing castle it is today. So we decided, Gordon had a word with Steve and thought, we were in ourselves, we thought this is the old palace. This must be the ruins of the old palace. And Gordon had a word with Steve and asked him if we could do an archaeological dig, find out what's there before it's buried and lost forever. And Steve agreed to give us 6 months to find out what was under the ground. But just so happened to be the start of the winter. So we're looking forward to that. So what we did is, we got in touch with East Lothian archaeologist Andrew Robertson. We went up and we explained to him what we wanted to do. He was quite keen. We asked for his help. Obviously none of us are professional archaeologists. We've been on a couple of archaeological digs, but we're really passionate about history and we wanted to find out what was there. So Andrew gave us his blessing. He said he would help us come doing the daily wee drawings and stuff. So then Julie, we got in touch with the Geophys team for Edinburgh, and this is Dawn for the Geophys team and Gordon, and we geophysed the whole ground to have a wee look to see what was under the ground. The first geophys that came back wasn't really promising. It was very blurry. We couldn't really tell much detail, but we knew there was walls there, but it wasn't really showing anything up. But after we've been digging, we know now that that's all rubble, and that's why we weren't getting any definite images up. We did do an inverted, changed it into a sort of black and white picture, which did give us a wee more bit of detail, where myself and Gordon decided, if you go back here and Gordon, we decided we would do 4 test trenches, here, 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 here. This was going to be our first trench. So we duly, we let Andrew Robertson know, and we got a couple of boys also for AOC Archaeology to give us a wee hand. So this is myself and Gordon starting taking the first stuffs off, the first trench. And this was your first trench, number 1. This is a cobbled courtyard, and we reckon it could be the 15th century. This is a wall. There's also a cobbled courtyard here. But this hole here, underneath this cobbled courtyard, there's another cobbled courtyard. But they're more neater and precise cobbles that are in here. We also found a hole here, which we believe is a post hole, because in this rubble here and along here, there was lots of white powder in this area, and like broken up, mushed up sandstone, and there was a lot of red sandstone here. But we think that in the building of the castle it is now, that there might have been a shelter here, and this is where the stonemasons were working the stone. So you had maybe the guy doing the red stone here, and the guy doing the white stone here. But all that stuff. And in here we found bones, bits of glass, pottery. There was I can't remember if it was about here, there was a small bone, but it looked like it had been polished. For some reason, we're not sure what it was, but there's obviously better experts than us that will be looking into that. So we move on. So this is our first trench here. We knew there was a wall here. With the second trench we were going to dig, there sort of showed an anomaly up here, and it just so happened the ground up in that bit there was like a donut. So we thought that must be the turret. So we dug here, but all we found was a tree root. So there must have been an old tree there at one time. So we moved along here about 1.5 meters. We came across this curve in the wall, so we knew we had found a turret and the wall come in here. But we decided to come down here for this wall here. This wall is part of the office complex that Gordon showed you. There's walls going across here, walls going across here. We have done a wee bit more digging, it's not shown in the picture. But we did find walls and drainage type in the cobbles, slanted. So we knew we did find that office in the complex there. There's a wee bit here in the wall, but there's very decorative stone, and it could be like steps or lintel, but this isn't a part of the original wall. We don't know what this was, but we do know that in the demolition years, I think it lay empty for 85 years, the ruins, but we do know that there was a couple of builders and their families lived in this area, and I think what they were doing was any farmers wanted bits of buildings, they had stone, and they taken them for the old castle to help build it. And we don't know if they put this up and maybe had like a sheep pen or something just to keep, but that is not definitely part of the wall. So I'll let Frank take the next bit.
Thank you, Billy.
In his dulcet tones.